tomorrow, the only show on Indian television right now where you, the MSME, get center stage to voice your concerns, to voice your thoughts and your opinions. This is ET Now's daily special initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center on every industry and area that matters to you. Today on the show on Direct Connect, we have a panel of experts answering your queries, and later on we will feature M-Swipe on our Small Giants segment. In the last season, and you're well aware of this, we used to talk about what was happening as far as financing goes for MSMEs. A lot of them said, we don't have the information. We're still talking about the lack of information, but I just want to change it for you very quickly, Vishal, and ask you, the world is changing for MSMEs and for corporate India, GST, IFRS, for example. In that scenario, what would you want them to keep in mind when it comes to raising funds?
Okay. See, I'll share one very interesting thing which has recently come up. With the introduction of GST, what is happening in particularly is that now SIDBI is setting up another undertaking which will be known in the name of Receivable Exchange of India. So they are now coming up with more avenues of financing MSMEs wherein they can fund their working capital, especially their receivables, by factoring. So factoring is an arrangement where, you know, if your customer is going to pay you in, let's say, 60 days time, you can approach SIDBI and tell him that here is a list of my customers who are going to pay me in next 60 days. So you can actually take 80% of that list of customers that is there, and SIDBI will provide you funding at a very, very low rate. Erstwhile, it was possible only in case of exports, not in domestic, because the customers were not known. Now with GST coming in, the GST network, the data on the GST network will serve as a credit score for a lot of customers, because all their invoices would be reported on the GST network, and based on that information, Receivable Exchange of India will assess that how much of this customer is liquid, and that kind of funding can be made available to MSME.
Trust that answers your question, Bipin. And in fact, we have another question which is also coming in from Sharath Kumar. Sharath has written in to us to say that he's into the banking software development service industry. He says there's a lot of attrition when they train people and these people leave, slowing down their progress. He says he wants to know how they can really go about resolving this issue. He's written in to our experts to say what is the best solution for him. Each of you gentlemen have worked in large organizations, have worked with teams, heading teams. So maybe from your own personal experience, one or two quick tips that you can share with our viewers about how to retain people effectively.
Okay, one is of course, see, there needs to be a formal structure of HR. So let's say an HR policy handbook addresses 80% of the challenges, because if an employee knows what is the leave policy, whether, you know, he can take a loan from the organization, what are the work timings, internet usage policy, etc., it gives him a lot of confidence that he is working for an organization which is highly structured. So that is one. Second is following HR procedures, like when you join, you give an offer letter, there is an increment. You show a very clear growth path for an employee, as to, even if it's a startup and you don't have too many levels, you know, you can give a certainty to an employee that, you know, you are at this position and there will be a team which gets created above you and below you. And thirdly, if you are talking about employees joining at a very senior level or very, very close to the founders, and if you are looking at retaining them for a longer term, a kind of a quasi ESOP, which is generally practiced by large cap companies, because see, a startup today uses their own stake or their own percentage of shares as a currency, whether they give it out to investors or whether they give it out to employees as a stakeholder, because employees also at the end of the day very critically valuable resource which will help the company to go on to the next level. So a quasi ESOP kind of thing could also be considered. So these are 3 tips from my side.